are new immigrants, and the student mentality is killing us. We still think we are students. Leadership, to me, from a sociological point of view, every one of you is a leader. Especially from the Cameroon context, from the African context, you are a leader. As a leader, we need to create alliances between the United States and Cameroon. There's no question about it. We cannot be ashamed to be Cameroon Americans. We cannot be ashamed that we're from Cameroon.
Why are we not exploiting the know-how of some of us? Because when you look at the Cameroon community here in the U.S., we're not short-handed with professionals, lawyers, doctors. The void of leadership in our community is actually characterized by the lack of followers. The fact that followers just quit when they feel the organization leadership does not represent their interests.
The lack of women in leadership roles, from dealing with group situation with women and men separately. A lot of the women, most of them still play the double functions, the double roles, where they're full-time housewife and then at the same time they are working outside, and so they have very limited time to do extracurricular activities. You know, if you have children, and those of you, if you're married, you have kids, you see most of the responsibilities in that home falls on the shoulders of the women.
If you look like something like HIV/AIDS, which is where I have done a lot of work, most African countries expect that the action that is taken against that disease should come from the outside. Not to talk about the fact that there's really very little budgeted for that. And so you go all over Africa in small places. The people that are doing work on crucial work on HIV/AIDS tend to be very few Cameroonians, if I use the case of Cameroon, and then a lot of people from the outside. Now, you know, when they're gone, since HIV/AIDS is an illness that we will live with for a very long time, unless there is a vaccine. If there is no vaccine, the next 30, 40 years, 50 years, we'll be talking about it. Now, if there has been no capacity building, people have not been trained to deal with it, it will always be a huge problem.
And essentially what we're trying to do in this symposium is to explore ways we can empower Cameroonians to be leaders of tomorrow. We all agree that we'll empower the children from the grassroots level.
I have a philosophy that you don't just born leaders are not born, you become a leader. Just by being here, you are a leader, as Uncle Mike said. You are a leader. So, but you develop those skills, you intercommunicate, you partnership, like Brother just said. I've tried many businesses in Cameroon. God bless Brother Mike, he's doing well, but mine never worked because the partners all were liars. And that problem did not come from us. I came right from my own family until I gave up. I just go to Cameroon for fun. But then I'm still happy and hope that one day that true partner will come, that I'm doing this because he said that would have created 15 different jobs for 15 different families. But I said, you know what, I'm done, and that's it. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm going to invest right here in the USA because I can see that leverage in partnership. And he said the trust factor comes in. Sometimes don't blame them. Sometimes it comes from your internal family where you should have that comfort. And for every dollar or every CFA in those days that is held in Cameroon, the French have to protect it with the 33% in the French treasury. So the French are keeping a part of your money as a collateral for the CFA on the French francs, use that money and reinvest it and get more interest, and then give it back to you on a high loan, just like they do with the credit card to us. It should not happen because we don't have our own central treasury, just like Nigeria took a step in the 70s and created the Naira away from the pounds. It was painful, but they now become independent. Ghana has a cedi, Kenya has the shillings. Cameroon did not have that. Now they formed the Central Africa. It is good, but it is still tied to a foreign reserve.
As a student, do you really think that they can teach you leadership? And also, how does, I saw in your biography that you're a member of Alpha, Beta, Psi. How do those like great society, I mean, do you think that that's something that kind of expose people, the students here, to that kind of to leadership? And do you think that it's something that you could kind of also is a mentality that you could embrace back home? Because back home, I mean, we students have very little extracurricular activities in school.
Those organizations, for example, they can have seminars on teaching you how to behave, how to think, how to go forward, not just sit there. And we had a discussion last time with one member of Ernst & Young, like an employee, and he was saying, don't just be happy to be there. That's one part of leadership. You cannot just sit there and say, oh, I have arrived, this is it, life is good. But you have to always go forward, always do something to improve.
We have to try to be ingenious and come up with creative ideas and solutions for Africa. What I see people doing is we try to get ideas from the US and think that those same ideas are going to work in Africa, or Cameroon in particular. So I think we need to develop ingenious ideas, creative ideas, using the mentality on the ground and the infrastructure on the ground to come up with these ideas. CPS is that vehicle which is going to bring all those creative minds together, teach them this history so that as a continent and as a country, Cameroon, we can move forward.
As the president of CPS, right, you're talking about empowerment and all those things. My question is, what have you done to involve women, right, in CPS? Because when I look at the structure, right, all the big shots are men.
We tried. We tried from the network we had. The problem with starting conceptualizing the CPS is we cannot come out in the open and say, okay, there is a group being thought of as a CPS and broadcast that everywhere. And first of all, people are going to criticize it before it starts. And you already have that discussion going. So from our networks, we leverage the contacts we had, and it involved all my female colleagues, physicians, lawyers, business people, and all of that, and all the other, all the other professionals that I could think of, that everybody else could think of. And we had many women in the initial working bureau, but when push came to shove, and this is not to talk about women, but people just didn't stand up to say, yes, I would do X, Y, and Z. And it's an ongoing effort that we are trying to get, gender equality on the board and on CPS activities, and we've been pushing at that very hard.
One of the things I think is really great with CPS and this forum is that it's actually one of those things where it's actually teaching and doing simultaneously, rather than simply talking about how to nurture tomorrow's leaders or Cameroonian leaders. The forum itself is an exercise in that leadership, because it wasn't just some philosophical exercise. It was a question of young guys, young professionals, putting together an organization, putting together a forum that actually tackles a pertinent issue.
Again, we want to thank you. I want to touch on the thing about the kids with Dr. Inongene. I mean, that is a recurring theme. So again, the CPS is a canopy. We can work together and develop things in that regard. And not only that, any other thing. There are other ideas here. We are here, we are devoting this time, and we want to make these things happen.
CPS is a great organization. I'm glad that Dennis is trying to get women more involved.
I was very impressed with the turnout.
We need to study our history, and I think that's something that CPS can do, to teach history to the young kids who are coming.
One of the greatest problems with leadership, or the lack thereof, is the fear of failure. And by putting together an activity like this, although there is risk of failure, it shows that, to actually be a leader, you have to do.
Go to the CPS website, look at the things that are being offered by CPS, and get involved so that we can help to change Cameroon and empower our new leaders, because that is our future for tomorrow.